ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Monday, February 9th. And this should be a national holiday, right? That's what I've heard all day. The day after Super Bowl should be a national holiday. We should all get the night off and the day off. Not the case. But welcome in. It is your Monday, February 9th edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. I'm here. Should be a national holiday, right? That way we can all just have a day off after the Super Bowl. I don't know if I subscribe to that, but Super Bowl 60 last night, you heard it right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. At this point, I think you know what happened. Seattle got the win over New England 29-13, and all people could talk about was just how bad or how good the halftime was, or how good or bad the commercials were. So, okay, I'll entertain that. We'll do that on our text line this hour. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I'll entertain it. I'm not necessarily going to focus heavily on it. I mean, the game itself, Seattle with the win, and I'm not surprised by that. And if you like defense, you probably enjoyed a lot of this game. If you didn't like defense, I mean, there were some exciting moments. This wasn't the worst Super Bowl game on record. I saw a lot of those posts. Worst Super Bowl ever. Wasn't the best either, but Seattle gets the victory over the Patriots, and so we've got a new champion. And Seattle running back Kenneth Walker, game's most valuable player. He had 135 yards and 26 receiving yards in the air. So congratulations for him. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's a lot of all-purpose yards on the ground or receiving yards. So now we're looking at, of course, what happens next in the NFL, and there are reports that say Bengals are considering placing the franchise tag on defensive end Troy Hendrickson, and they've been in a contract dispute for a while. He's requested a trade in the past, and you know how well the front office in Cincinnati really works to make things happy for everybody. Not the case here. So I think Hendrickson's probably going to get that tag on him. It might be beneficial in the short term until they can probably come to something of a more of a long-term agreement. But we'll see what's happening there as far as the NFL. All of that news is going to start to come out. And, of course, we've got the weekend to look back on. Now, we're going to hear, hopefully, from Coach Jackson. He had a scheduled presser at 4:30, from my understanding. It hasn't even begun yet. So once we get the sound from that, I'm hoping we get it within the hour. We will run it back as fast as we can, because usually I like being there, but since the presser was scheduled for 4:30, they're running a little bit behind from what I'm understanding, so we're going to get that probably maybe 5:30, 5:45, so stick around for that. And, of course, if I can't get it live, I'll post it later on my social media accounts, and you can follow me on X at Paul Swann or on Facebook. Search for The Drive with Paul Swann. Of course, basketball on Saturday. Let's recap that, shall we? I don't know how many of you were with us on the post game after, but it was a tremendous game to talk about, at least for the Miami side of this. It was a huge crowd, 5,408 people on hand to watch the Herd. Now, that's a sellout in the new configuration. The olden days, I've been in the Henderson Center where there have been more. With the new configuration, and again, I'm okay with that. Those seats are not necessarily the safest. I wouldn't want to sit up there unless I absolutely had to. I didn't get a ticket. But Marshall would have sellouts before. It's not uncommon to see 6, 7, 8,000 in the Henderson Center back in the day, as we go way, way, way back. But I know that times have changed and the crowds have diminished compared to what they were when the building opened. The newness of everything started to wear off. But that was a good crowd. I'd put that there up against anything that I've seen, recent memory at least, as far as crowds are concerned. The students, tremendous. I know it was Greek night as well. That always helps. And Very competitive. The students made life miserable for Miami. Of course, you know they're really close next to the bench, as close as you could possibly get them. And it worked out as far as the atmosphere was concerned. No complaints here from me. I appreciated the students. I know the student section was almost, I think it was overflow, wasn't it? I know we had a lot of students, and I'm right next to the students section from where I sit in the end zone where they set us up. And I'm not complaining, but I had to stand up a little bit from my seat because where I'm at, there was a wall of fans, a wall of students there. Now, again, I'm not complaining about that. But I will mention there were a lot of people on social media complaining about having to stand up. And I don't know where these people were sitting, and I can't really say if they've got a true beef. But there are people who subscribe to the point of view that if you're not standing, why are you here? And then there are some people that say, hey, look, you know, I bought a seat. I want to sit and watch the game. I can't stand the entire game. So I will just throw that out there for you to kind of give you some low-hanging fruit today to be on the show. And, of course, the game itself, tremendous crowd. 5,475 watched Marshall honestly struggle in that first half. Second half was a little bit better, and I want to see more of that. Now, I was trying to ask Coach a little bit of a comparison question. I was trying to get him to maybe, in his own words, say, I think that we're close to being at this level. Yeah, that was a top 25 team. They showed it. They played like it. And if you could put it all together, where do you think you are in relation to where this team is? And I was trying to ask him that, and I felt like if Marshall could have found a little bit more consistency, Marshall would have won this game. Now, I might be watching a different game that you were watching, but Miami was good. It really showed. But Marshall was 8 of 29 from the three-point line. That's not going to win you anything. Miami was 8 of 18. A little bit more conservative with its three-point shots, 44.4%. It was 60% in the first half, 25% in the second half, 2 of 8 there. So it would have been even better if Miami would have hit a few more. But as a team, 33 of 59, 55.9%. Free throw line, 16 of 21, 76.2%. You look at Marshall's line, 28 of 70 for 40%. You notice something here. Marshall put up more shots than Miami. 70 shots compared to 59. Marshall hits 28 of them. 8 of 29, as we mentioned, from the three-point line. So 40%, 27.6 from three. And then the free throw line, 10 of 17 for 58.8%. Hurd was 7 of 12 in that first half, 3 of 5 in the second half. Small differences there, 58%, 60%. You almost have to be near perfect when you go up against a team like Miami. And here's the other number that really stood out to me. Marshall didn't lose the rebounding battle by much. Miami out-rebounded Marshall 40-35. Not that big of a difference there. And now, yes, you're missing Matt Van Komen. Let's be quite honest with ourselves here, intellectually. Matt Van Komen would have helped tremendously because you got a lot of scoring from different places from Miami. And Miami was able just to go inside a lot. 46 points in the paint. Marshall had 38, so that's good. I'll take that. But 46 points in the paint for Miami. And then points off turnovers, 12 for Miami, 9 for Marshall. Marshall committed 11 turnovers. Miami uncharacteristically turned the ball over 13 times. And, of course, second chance points. Those are big. It wasn't that big of a gap, but still important. 19-13 for Miami. Fast break points, that actually belonged to Marshall, 16-6, and then bench points, 21 for Miami, 17 for the Herd. But you look at some of these numbers, and the hustle points there, okay, Marshall gets beat in the paint. Marshall gets beat off turnovers, but everything's close. And then you look at, well, here's the problem. First half, Marshall put itself in a hole, 49-31. Marshall outscored Miami in that second half, 43-41. So you're in a hole once again. What do? You have to expend a lot of energy to put yourself in a position to catch back up. And Marshall was still in a position for a while. It looked like Marshall had swung momentum. I think that some key timeouts, Miami was really smart about limiting the momentum Marshall was bringing. Marshall was able to get a surge, and then Miami would just shut that down completely. So what's next for the Herd? What do you do now to kind of get over this one? Make sure that you don't have a hangover from this one, and then you're able to go into the game against Old Dominion. And I do have some good news. We've got coach's presser, so we're going to be able to give that to you here in a couple of minutes. So we're going to have to take our break now so I can get that to you. I will edit it as quickly as I can so we can give it to you in its entirety. We'll talk more about this Marshall-Miami game, and I want to hear from you as well. If I didn't get a chance to talk to you on Saturday, I want to do that now. So our text line is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter says before we go to the break, Paul, Miami didn't really impress me. Marshall could have won if they didn't come out with the jitters and then couldn't hit a shot, which felt like eternity matched with sloppy play. Lane violations were egregious. By the way, I wonder why Bob Huggins was there. Also, P.S., you have the best sports talk show in the state. Keep it up. First of all, in that third line, thank you. Truly, I appreciate it. There are some days where you feel like, not your day, Paul, but I do appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I'm curious as well. You know, Bob's got some connections here. He had the Herd gear on. It's like he went to the equipment room and they hooked him up, right? I had no problem with it. I know some did. I had no problem with Bob Huggins being in Huntington, being at the Marshall game, because I've met the man a few times. And yes, I know he's had some things to say about Marshall, but you know what? He was the head coach of the WVU Mountaineers. He was playing to his audience. Absolutely playing to his audience. But he's always been, with me, cordial, personable, and professional. I met him several years ago when I was covering Marshall WVU games. Of course, you know, I've run into him a couple of times briefly. I've had just a brief interaction with him. I actually ran into him a couple of years ago in Morgantown. I was up for a couple of awards and an awards banquet, and he was there. So I went up to him, just briefly talked to him for a moment. He was there working the crowd, obviously there for some other things. But, you know, he was always pleasant, personable. I'll tell you a quick story before we hit the break about Bob Huggins, just to kind of emphasize why, at least I don't think the guy is a terrible human being. Your mileage may vary, but I had gotten let go at my previous place of work. And so, thankfully, I was allowed to keep my credential. Marshall University, the Sports Information Office, those folks were really great about letting me keep my credential. You know, I was there when Randy Burnside was still there and his staff, and Randy was a tremendous sports information director. And then Jason Courier came along, and Jason treated me like gold. And I was sort of in that in-between zone. And so they let me have a credential to that Marshall WVU game. They're like, hey, can you help us out? You know, we really need someone to work the pass gate, you know, and, you know, help us out. And I'm like, hey, whatever you need, I'm grateful, because I know everybody. I can hand passes out and help out. I'm not covering it for a media outlet. I can help out. And Bob was there. He's coming through the back, and we were taking care of Bob. And a Herd fan came up to him at a basketball for him, wanted him to sign it. And Bob gladly did it. And the fan said, hey, I root for you and I follow you when Marshall's not playing WVU. I root for you. And Bob looked at him and said, and that's the way it should be. Absolutely. So he talked to a Marshall fan. I was right there overhearing it, and Bob was like, that's how it should be. When we play, you shouldn't. But if we're not playing each other, absolutely. And your mileage, again, may vary with that, but I've never had a bad interaction with Bob Huggins. So, yeah, he was in Huntington, and I saw that he was around the town having a good time. A lot of people opened up the city for him, right? I mean, we didn't give him the key or anything, but at the same time, good to see him here. I had a chuckle when I saw Herd fans reacting to him, and you know what? He had the Herd gear on. We got plenty of proof of that now. Bobby's running with the Herd. All right, we got to take the break. We'll come back, and we're going to hear from Coach Jackson. We'll find out more. Special shout-out to my guy from HD Media, Tyler Kennett, helping me out today, so I just want to publicly acknowledge him. Tyler is a great guy at the newspaper, helps me out in a lot of ways, so make sure that you're reading his stuff. Does a fantastic job covering the beat at Marshall University. Quick timeout. We continue with this edition of Your Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Metro Community Federal Credit Union now brings you all the tech that big banks have, but still has that personal touch of a member-owned community credit union. Apple Pay? Got it. Digital wallet? Yep. Message pay by text, online loan payments, even chatting with a real person, not a bot. Open accounts, sign documents, and manage your money all online. It's the big bank tech you need from the local community-minded credit union you trust. Metro Community FCU. Visit metrocommunityfcu.com today.
Looking for midweek fun? Head to Frank's Place, where every night's a party. Wednesdays are full of brains and brews with trivia night. Grab your crew and show off what you know. Thursdays, crank it up with Singo Bingo. Music meets bingo for prizes and laughs. Then Fridays, we hand you the mic for karaoke night. Sing your heart out and start your weekend right. The fun never stops at Frank's Place. Great drinks, great friends, and good times. Frank's Place, located at the River Place Plaza, next to Fratelli's. Check them out on Facebook for weekly updates and specials. Frank's Place, your home away from home.
Cold weather's on its way, and what do you want on those cold, chilly evenings? A warm blanket and a hot cup of cocoa. Well, you know who else wants the same comfort? Mice. Messy, uninvited guests. They sneak in and leave droppings, chew through your food and packages. Don't let mice take over your home this fall and winter. Call K&B Pest Control. We will kill for your business. Call today, 304-523-4281.
Kindred Communications is proud to welcome WSAZ to our family of stations. When you listen to your favorite Kindred station, you'll hear the trusted voices from WSAZ you know, with the WSAZ First Alert forecast and the latest news. WSAZ and Kindred Communications working together for the Tri-State.
Mark Porter Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is having a President's Day sale. What a sale it'll be. With all the snow, our vehicles are stacking up. 2025 Ram 2500 heavy-duty pickups save up to $15,000. 2025 Ram 1500 save up to $17,000 and 3.9 for 72 months. 2025 Jeep Wrangler save up to $10,000. 2025 Jeep Gladiator $9,000 off. 2026 Jeep Compass save $5,000 off. Shop 24 hours at markportercdjr.com or markporterram.com. 2026 Ram 1500 save up to $11,000. Car Ferry says no one sells for less. 2026 Chrysler Pacifica minivan save $6,000. 2026 Jeep Grand Cherokee L save up to $7,500 cash off. 2026 Dodge Durango up to $5,000. All new Grand Wagoneer and all new Jeep Cherokee in stock. 2026 Ram 2500 pickup save up to $7,000. Come to Mark Porter CDJR Route 32 and Mayhew Road Jackson or Route 7 and Laurel Cliff Road Pomeroy. We need your trade. See us today. Sale ends March 2nd. All rebates to dealer.
Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m., I make his breakfast. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m., I make his breakfast. At 7 a.m., I shower. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m., I make his breakfast. At 7 a.m., I shower. I start laundry at 8. At 10, we go for a walk. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m.
For those dealing with the daily struggles of caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community with experts and other caregivers for advice, tips, and support. Together, let's help each other better care for ourselves and the ones we love. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Follow at Paul Swann on X for Marshall sports updates and more.
We'll continue on with this Monday edition of Your Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. If you just joined us, you're in time. We've got comments fresh from his media availability. Head coach Cornelius Jackson getting set this week for the Herds games against Old Dominion and Georgia Southern. Old Dominion's Wednesday. We'll have the game right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Then on Valentine's Day, going to be televised nationally on ESPNU. It's an 8:30 tip, so we go the air at 7:30. So spend part of your Valentine's Day with me here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Apologies to your significant other on that day. All right, comments from head coach Cornelius Jackson. I haven't had a chance to actually listen to this other than a couple of spots, so we're all going to hear it together and react together, and then I want to get your feedback. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Here's Coach Jackson starting off with his opening statement as we get set for Old Dominion and Georgia Southern.
First, before I speak on those games, I want to talk a little bit about how awesome of an atmosphere we had for the Miami game. Our fans were amazing. Our students showed up in great numbers. Ryan Chris and his group, the marketing team, they've done a fantastic job, getting the students out. They were trying to be our sixth man. Miami is a really good team. I mean, they're undefeated for a reason, and they make you pay. You make mistakes, they make you pay. So, I've watched the game twice now. We watched it as a team earlier, and just wanted to show some guys different things that we can learn from. Against a really, really good team, you can't make mistakes. You can't not answer. They made some mistakes defensively, and we missed 2 or 3 wide open shots. We stepped on the free throw line 3 times. I mean, you can't do that against a really good team. But our crowd was awesome. We really appreciate that, first and foremost. Obviously, we didn't get it done, but we're going to take it as a learning lesson and use it throughout the rest of this conference season. So, big week. I told our guys this is the gauntlet. We have like you said, we have a game on Wednesday, and then we play on Saturday. Our game got changed. It got pushed back, some TV. And so we'll get back at 1:32 in the morning. We'll have practice at some point on Sunday and then get ready to play our makeup game against South Alabama.
What do you tell your guys this time of the year? Because it's so hard, I'm sure, to balance the physical part of the game and just in the mental part where maybe you're doing more mental stuff now than physical, just to save the legs for a week like this?
Yes, for sure. It's a long year, and our system is in place. So we may tweak a few things, but it's in place now. It's just a matter of mind over matter, and staying focused in the moment again. We put this Miami game to bed today and moved on to Old Dominion, and now it's just a matter of focusing and trying to keep guys fresh. We have, I believe, 7 games in 17 days heading into the tournament. So 4 of those are on the road. So it's the gauntlet. So you have to be, locked in mentally and obviously feeling good physically as well.
Coach, how was the response from the guys with that game over the weekend? I mean, sure, there's a lot of valuable lessons to take from this one. I think Wyatt said, kind of benefit that it doesn't impact the conference and you're able to take and test yourself against a really good
Yeah, I mean, I think they were hurt and down, as we all were. You know, we had a huge opportunity. We didn't take advantage of it. So anytime you have that, you don't capitalize, right? You feel like your dog died. You know, I know I felt bad, and I felt bad for them. And I felt bad for our fans again because they did their part, you know, and we couldn't capitalize. But again, it was an awesome atmosphere. I hope we continue to have that. Not just, like I said, not just when Miami comes to town. I hope we have that next week when South Alabama comes to town as well.
You always talk about, you know, the next game, and in ODU, they didn't look like a 7-11 team when they beat Ohio just a couple of days ago. What can you learn from watching that game, and maybe that they're maybe trending upward, and you're on the road too, so
yeah,
it's got your full attention.
It's college basketball. You can't. I learned a long time ago. You can't really go on records. You know, maybe on the surface people will watch, or they'll Google ESPN and they'll say, "Oh man, they're." Well, I watch the games and I trust my eyes. I know they have talent. The Shaw kid is really good. They still have Davis, the preseason player of the year. They have a transfer from Georgetown. Their 7-foot center, he came from Maryland 2 years ago. So they're talented. Battle came from Coastal. I think he's averaging 14 a game. So you can't. Records go out the window. It's conference play. They're at home. They're leading the Sun Belt in attendance. So you know, teams always play better at home, and they're talented. So we just have to stay focused on what we do, limit our mistakes, play Marshall basketball, and see if we can't go down here and get a win.
You have that road stretch going down. Is there? I know obviously you won't play every game at home, but is there a benefit to a point of, as you kind of ramp towards March, of having these kind of tests as the season winds down?
Yes and no. You know what? The 4 games in a row, I mean, that's on the road as a gauntlet. Last year, we were the only team in the conference that we had 2 of those. And that's a huge gauntlet, right? I don't know many leagues that does that, right? It's usually 2 max, and then you're back home. But you know what? You have to play the game. It'll help head into Pensacola. You know, we can't play every game in the can. We can't have every game sold out. So it should help us, you know, heading into Florida.
We talked a little bit on Saturday about Landon. Could you speak to his progression as it keeps on? I mean, like you said, you kind of called him like an MVP game there for that last one.
Yeah, you know, he and Wyatt, you know, were the bright spots. And you know, I watched the film twice. We didn't play terrible. We didn't play good, but we didn't play terrible. But you can't make as many mistakes as we did. You can't not capitalize when they make mistakes. But Landon was good, you know, a freshman. He's been pretty solid for us all year. He got in and made some shots because we were struggling to shoot the ball. I mean, we shot 27.6%, and we're a way better shooting team than that. Did Miami cause some of that? Maybe. But watching the film, we missed a lot of open shots. But he was good. You know, Landon was good. Again, Wyatt, considering the circumstances, to go out and get a double-double, that told me a lot about his toughness level. Because, again, he was a game-time decision. So we just have to keep growing, man. You know what? We played 2 games without our starting center. So guys are stepping into different roles. We're kind of molding the team a little differently because he hadn't been with us.
Those comments from head coach Cornelius Jackson, your takeaways, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Coach basically said that Marshall can't make mistakes. He was very complimentary of the crowd, and I think we all were. And I agree with him. I echo those sentiments. Why can't Marshall get crowds like that all the time? Students play a big part of that. So you're going to have to hit those students hard, focus on what they are doing, how you can get them back. I know Coach was joking about, hey, you know, I'm going to get the wristbands out. And, you know, it was even funny on game day to think, you know, we got pizza, we got free hard hats. We're doing everything we can to kind of cater to the students to get them in. And I'm hoping that they'll come back, and eventually they want to come back because the energy is there and the excitement's there, and they want to support Marshall basketball. They're students, right? You're paying fees. You're paying athletic fees. You should take advantage of all the offerings there, especially if you're on campus and you're a student that's in the area. I think you should do your very best to go to Marshall games and support the team. I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. You'll never be at a Marshall basketball game as a student again when you graduate. It's completely different. You're not going to be part of that student section. Unless you're an overgrown adult or just a big kid, you're not going to be hanging out in that student section. They're going to do the things you do in the student section. So I agree. You got to focus on making sure that those kids come back and they want to be a part of it, and that Marshall is the main thing. Keep it on the main thing, and Marshall's the main thing. It shouldn't be it's about Miami. It shouldn't be about it's any other team. Marshall's in town. Marshall's playing. Hey, let's go support the Herd if you're a student. Now, some of the other things that Coach talked about. He highlighted making sure that this team is focusing and staying fresh. You got to focus and you got to stay fresh. That was a highlight. Also, talking about the players' mood after the game. I know that there was some talk about, hey, this team maybe folded a little bit under pressure. The stage was too big. They had the jitters. I know that was some of the things that I was seeing coming out after the game. And he talked about how this team was hurt and it was down. Absolutely. You lose a big game like that in front of a huge crowd, you're obviously going to be down. I don't blame anyone for that. It's just human nature. As far as the game itself, Coach said that Marshall didn't play good, but they didn't play terrible. And he also talked about Old Dominion briefly and just said that they have talent, highlighted a few of the players, also said that Marshall needs to focus on what Marshall does, also limit mistakes and not capitalizing on mistakes made by Miami. You got to shoot better. So some of the basic things that Coach said. What's your reaction to his weekly address? Now it's time for you. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Did you hear what you wanted to hear on a coach, or if there's something that Coach maybe didn't address that you would have liked to have heard? We'll get your text when we continue on this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Mike Rowe here with another random fact. Those cracks on your walls aren't just cosmetic. They could mean your home is sinking. Whether it's drywall cracks, exterior cracks, or sticking doors or windows, do yourself a favor. Call Groundworks. I spent some time working with these guys, and they're the real deal. Their people are trained and certified to stabilize your foundation. Baker's Waterproofing and Basement Authority of West Virginia are now Groundworks. Schedule a free inspection.
Licensed in all states where work is performed. See website for details.
Naughty But Nice has reopened in a new location, 1336 Greenup Avenue, Ashland, Kentucky. Same products, new location for all your adult needs. Stop by our new location, 1336 Greenup Avenue, Ashland.
Race to savings now at Menards. Update your room with Mohawk Flooring. Dura-style vinyl plank flooring has the natural look of oak flooring and is durable, waterproof, and perfect for active households. It comes with an attached pad for a quick install, enhanced comfort, and sound reduction. It's on sale now through February 14th. View our weekly flyer on Menards.com and race to savings on more great flooring deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. So, who's going to do what? Flashlights?
Nowhere to be found.
Where to be found? Batteries?
Dead.
Great. Emergency supply kits?
Not packed.
No. What about blankets?
We have an old towel.
Good enough. Cell phones?
May not work.
Emergency water?
Not a drop.
And what about food?
Nope.
Perfect. We all know where we're meeting if we're separated, yeah?
The library. Aunt Joan's house. The bus stop.
Great. And I'll be waiting here wondering where you all are. Sounds like we don't have a plan. Who's up for mini golf?
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Make sure your kids know what to do during an emergency. Who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information. A public service announcement brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We continue on with this Monday edition of Your Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line, it's brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. If you just joined us, we heard from Coach Jackson just a few moments ago. So if you missed his comments, you can download the podcast later. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Coach basically said the team can't make mistakes. Going to make sure that this team is focused, staying fresh. Reiterated that the crowd was great. Said that the team afterwards hurt and down. Said that the team didn't play good. Didn't play terrible, but didn't play good or anything. He said this team, with this recent roster shakeups a little bit, having a couple guys out or down, you got to keep growing. So those are kind of some of the things, just, again, touching on some of the points. You can hear the full comments from Coach Jackson when we upload the podcast. And for those of you that are listening on the podcast now, thanks for tuning in. So I opened it up to you, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I want to get your thoughts on what Coach said. We got a couple of texts come in. And again, you can add your thoughts to this as well. Texter says, Paul, Coach really didn't say anything. Appreciate the text. That was short and sweet. Also, texter says there's no reason whatsoever for this team to play so inconsistent. They're hot and cold. All right, appreciate the text as well. Very short and sweet. And hey, we're not limiting your length on the text. Just don't type me a novel. If you do, I'll read it, but don't type me a novel. We be here all day. That's all I'm saying. No. Get your text in now, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255 to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And again, Marshall back at it on the road this week against Old Dominion. They're always a tough challenge for the Thundering Herd. And then Georgia Southern, that game is going to be on ESPNU. And then don't forget, right back at it, South Alabama, the makeup game. Now, if you by chance won tickets from me, those tickets are still good. Remember, that game got postponed. So if you have your tickets from that game, they're still good. And if you won them from me, they're still good as well. So just keep that in mind when it comes to, do you need a special ticket, or, is your ticket good? Yes, your ticket is good for the South Alabama game. And, of course, the Thundering Herd has an interesting run here. 2 on the road, then the makeup game, and then 2 on the road. You look at this, Marshall basically has, if it wasn't for the makeup game, Marshall would have 4 straight. Coach was talking a little bit about that. So Marshall would have had 4 straight on the road. Now, of course, the Herd's not consecutively on the road from February 11th to February 21st, but you've got Old Dominion, and then you got to transition to Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern game's going to be a little later. Coach highlighted that. Then you get back home, and you're trying to get your Sunday work in. You've got the Monday game. And then Marshall's right back at it Thursday and Saturday, and then comes home to wrap it up against Old Dominion and Georgia Southern. Imagine that. The 2 teams you're facing this week, it'll be the last 2 teams you face as well. So the scout should be a little bit easier at that point. But then you got the conference tournament. So I'm in agreement with Coach when he talked about, not too many leagues. He doesn't know too many leagues that do that as far as scheduling. I'm not a big fan of Sun Belt scheduling. Football's fine, basketball, not that big of a fan of the scheduling. And again, I don't know what the answer is going to be. I would suggest maybe you look at it and you schedule in pods, you schedule in travel partners, you figure out what makes sense logistically. Where do you draw the lines when you make the travel schedule? Do you try to make it easy? Like, okay, you hit Marshall and then you go here, and because it's close to Marshall, or do you come up with just you're going to be here, you're just going to have to go on the road a couple, and then you're going to be back home for a couple, you're going to go back on the road for a couple, home. I don't know if I would really agree with the consecutive games on the road or at home for that matter. And, of course, the way the schedule's spread out a little bit, Old Dominion and Georgia Southern. Now, it's Wednesday, Saturday, so there is a gap in between. But still, Old Dominion, Georgia Southern, you really couldn't make a travel swing of this. And then South Alabama and App State and the Henderson Center. I'm sorry, South Alabama and the Henderson Center, just for clarity. App State then on the road because, again, South Alabama is the makeup game. And then Coastal Carolina. So Boone, North Carolina, Conway, South Carolina. Okay, I get it. North Carolina, South Carolina, they're kind of close. And then Old Dominion and Georgia Southern. That's your travel pod there. I do like the fact that there were travel partners in Conference USA. You kind of knew it. You knew what's your travel partner. And then you had the game where you played your travel partner, one at home, one on the road. Could you do that in this league? Should you do that in this league? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Final segment's coming up. More from you when we continue on this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
At Poca Valley Bank, a handshake can still mean the start of a great relationship. We've been greeting customers with a handshake since 1908. Why settle for less? If you're purchasing your first home or planning for your future, Poca Valley Bank is here to support you with personalized service and local expertise. They are your trusted advisors. Why settle for less when you can experience banking with a team that truly cares? Poca Valley Bank, where relationships matter. Visit PocaValleyBank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Stuck in a state of falling behind, struggling to keep up with kids, finances, insurance, and life? Well, let your State Farm agent help you simplify and get to a better state. With State Farm handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time to handle everything else. More money, too. Adding State Farm policies can earn discounts that could add up to 40%. Help you get ahead. Call an agent today and get to a better state with State Farm. In Huntington, Ray Crabtree, 304-736-8181. In Milton, Russ McRae, 304-743-9318. And in Lavallette, Jason Elkins, 304-529-7555.
Looking for midweek fun? Head to Frank's Place, where every night's a party. Wednesdays are full of brains and brews with trivia night. Grab your crew and show off what you know. Thursdays, crank it up with Singo Bingo. Music meets bingo for prizes and laughs. Then Fridays, we hand you the mic for karaoke night. Sing your heart out and start your weekend right. The fun never stops at Frank's Place. Great drinks, great friends, and good times. Frank's Place, located at the River Place Plaza, next to Fratelli's. Check them out on Facebook for weekly updates and specials. Frank's Place, your home away from home.
Kinder Communications is proud to welcome WSAZ to our family of stations. When you listen to your favorite Kindred station, you'll hear the trusted voices from WSAZ you know, with the WSAZ First Alert forecast and the latest news. WSAZ and Kinder Communications, working together for the Tri-State.
Hi, I'm Maria, salon owner. You know the jingle. Now discover the facts about Ozempic, a GLP-1. There's only one FDA-approved Ozempic, made by Novo Nordisk. Learn about the real thing.
Talk to your healthcare professional today. Call 1-833-OZEMPIC or visit Ozempic.com to view the medication guide and to learn more about Ozempic. Semaglutide injection 0.5, 1, and 2 milligrams.
start new in 2026. Get a new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram from the Car Ferry. 25 Ram 1500 3.9% for 72 months and save $12,000 off with 10-year 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. 25 Ram Heavy Duty, save up to $10,000. 2026 Jeep Compass, $3,500 off. Jeeps. 2025 Wrangler, save up to $11,500. Shop 24 hours at markportercdjr.com or markporterjeep.com. 25 Jeep Gladiators, save up to $6,000. 2026 Jeep Wagoneer, up to $6,000 off. Ram and Jeep have already lowered their prices thousands of dollars, so shop us again. They know they raised their prices too much and fired the guy who did it. Now is the time to save, and Mark Porter is the place. 2025 Ram ProMaster, save $7,000. 26 Ram 1500, save up to $10,000 off. 26 Dodge Durango, save up to $4,500 off. 2026 Pacific Minivans, $4,500 off. Come to Route 32 Mayhew Road, Jackson, Ohio, or Route 7 and Laurel Cliff Road, Pomeroy, Ohio. Over 200 available. See at markporterram.com. Save now. Sale ends February 2nd.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talk Line, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Thank you, Dave. Don't forget, coming up tomorrow, 10:06 a.m., it is Metro News Talk Line right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Text line rest of the way. Let's go first to this text. Texter wants to know if the MAC Challenge is a test to prove which conference is more competitive. Actually, in a sense, I would say it's more of it's a scheduling alliance is really what it comes down to. Appreciate the text, by the way. The challenge is an agreement. It's a scheduling alliance. And what it's meant to do is to guarantee a good non-conference road game for each side. Because you get one home, you get one road. And you're trying to increase non-conference strength of schedule. You're trying to make sure that you have a quality opponent on your schedule. Of course, Miami was the highest rated team in the net. Marshall is the highest rated team in the Sun Belt. So Miami should get a nice little push from beating Marshall. Marshall is a higher ranked net team than maybe some of the members in the MAC right now, obviously in the Sun Belt as well. And so it's basically to help your strength of schedule. It's basically to help improve your net. I mean, Marshall gets a strength of schedule boost from having Miami. Obviously, there's net considerations, and you're trying to increase across the board opportunities because it's very hard for mid-majors, teams like Marshall, teams like Miami, to maybe build upon strength of schedule net. I mean, you're playing some of the money games, and then you're getting the conference season here. It's not like you're going through the SEC or the ACC. The schedule, sometimes you got teams that are 200 or worse in the net. So that's what this basically is. It's trying to give you some opportunities to improve what you're doing non-conference, or as far as strength of schedule, give you that opportunity. And you pair them not based on, hey, this will be a great matchup. It's, okay, which two teams are the closest to each other? And the geography does play a factor. For Marshall, it's not going to be as bad geography-wise because, of course, the Mid-American Conference is right next door. So you might see Ohio. If Marshall and Ohio hadn't played, you might have seen Ohio, on a given year. And, of course, I hope that scheduling partnership continues. Text line 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter says, Paul, I still think Marshall is one of the better teams in the Sun Belt. We should at least advance to the Sun Belt Tournament Championship, in my opinion. Also, I did like that Coach Huggins was there to root for the Herd. I appreciate the text. Hey, I'm cool with it. I'm absolutely cool with it. He had the Herd gear on. He was going around town, making friends. I got no problem with it. I know I took a little heat. Go figure. I took heat for something. I took a little heat for it because I said, hey, I hope he's having a good time. I hope he's having a good time in Huntington. I know it can be a little challenging for Coach Huggins. Of course, you cross one bridge, you're into Ohio. You cross another bridge, you're in Kentucky, and then you cross another bridge and you're right back into West Virginia. I know that can be a little confusing. You'll get used to that as you figure out which bridge takes you well. And don't worry about those roundabouts in Ohio. You can figure those out once you go around them a few times. Just stay out of Ashland. The roundabouts are all over the place. So I think we can get the traffic pattern really quick if we work with him on that. Other than that, I think he'll be fine if he wants to visit again. No, I got no problem with Coach Huggins. I consider any interactions between Marshall and West Virginia to be on the level of the WWE. Depending on who you are, Marshall or WVU is either the face or the heel. You really think that you're going to have this, oh, they're great, we love those guys in Huntington, they're fantastic. Have you seen the spirited competition between the two soccer programs? I mean, those coaches respect each other, but have you seen the spirited competition between the two soccer programs? I think that answers your question there. You know what? Coach Huggins wants to hang out at Marshall games. He can come sit next to me. It'll be cool. It'll be fine. I know. Again, I'll take some heat for that. That's fine. I know he said some things in the past. Again, WWE heel stuff there. And I agree with the texter. Thank you for that. I think Marshall's not a bad team. There's no denying that. The problem has been the consistency. That has been killing the herd, among other things. Is Marshall putting its best five out there as well? Can we see more of Wilson Dubinsky? Can we get Wilson to maybe start a little bit more? I'd like to see Wilson start. Who would be your five? I would say Fricks, O'Shuty, Spear, Van Komen when he's available, and maybe I'm going Wilson Dubinsky. Maybe I'm starting with him. And maybe I'm rotating Landon in more. He got 23 minutes in that game. Kai Spears got 4 minutes. And I think when Kai comes off the bench, he provides a spark for this team. I would like to see some of these guys in there a little bit more. Bryce Slay, maybe you give him a little bit more of a run. See what he can do with more than just 7 minutes. And Shamari Hugie, 15 minutes. He was 1 of 3, I get that. But he had 3 fouls. The foul problems were a thing for Jalen. He had 4 fouls. Fouls were a problem. Yeah. I mean, Fricks was good. I always make sure Fricks is in the starting lineup. O'Shuty's always going to be in my starting lineup. Spears always going to be my starter. If we can get Van Komen back, he's in my lineup. Maybe I'm putting in Dubinsky more. Maybe I'm rotating a little bit more as well. I'm making sure that I'm bringing in. Again, I got a different mentality. I know I'm not a coach, but I'm definitely going to rotate my guys as much as I possibly can. I've got a set order of guys. You're my number one line, but I'm going to put some other guys in there, rotate them in, see what I can do. And honestly, if things aren't flowing the way, if Jalen's not hitting, I'm going to bring him out, and I'm going to put someone else in, and I'm going to recenter him. He's a competitor. 4-13 throw from the field, 2 of 8 from the three-point line. We know he can do better. He knows he can do better. And so I know he's got to be disappointed in that performance. Thank you for being a part of today's show. I'm going to be back with you tomorrow. We'll do it all over again right here, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.